Hey everyone, Margarita here. I'm gonna film this episode today on the wildfire smoke that's been coming over into the Michigan, Ohio, Indiana area, over from Canada, and it's been coming over for a few days heavily. It was pretty thick today. I'm doing it so you can kind of see that haziness in the sky back there. That's not natural. These wildfires are not natural occurring events. So you can learn more on that at geoengineeringwatch.org with Dane Wigington. He knows quite a bit about that and is many years more advanced than I am on everything that's going on and what is actually in the sky, because I do believe he has test particles and test flights he sends out in the air where he collects the particles and he actually figures out what particles are in the sky. Now a lot of the times that stuff is sprayed, but when it comes to the Canadian wildfires that generally drift over to the Michigan, Ohio area and even further out, sometimes it goes even further out, and then sometimes when the California wildfires are really bad, it also drifts all the way to Michigan, which I have seen before as well. It will drift many states over. So that stuff is all man-made. You know, there's a greater agenda involved in all of this, and this stuff is unsafe all around. And I know some people get alerts on their phone or messages saying certain population, certain segments of the population should not be outside during this. However, it's really not safe for anybody at all, especially the people with those serious conditions and small children or babies or old people. All of the above, it's not safe for anybody. Because I did get an alert on my phone, and the alert is literally only for people with conditions. And that's just not true. It's not safe for anyone, no matter how you look at it. You can learn more about that on Dane's website. But I'm kind of filming this here so you can see. It's been pretty dusty today. The sky was pretty white most of the day. That's all from the wildfire smoke. It's been drifting over heavily since Saturday. I believe it was Friday or Saturday. It got real bad over here where I live. I'm right by the water, so I'm only maybe 10 minutes technically from the Canadian line, 10 to 15 minutes. If you were to take a car to Lake Erie behind me and then take a boat from the edge there to Canada, it's literally like 10 to 15 minutes total. But it is all man-made. These wildfires, they're not so wild. And then you mix in the chemtrails and all these other situations with it. It's very unhealthy. They're only giving certain warnings to certain parts of the population, and then other people don't think about this stuff at all. And I honestly didn't even realize they were giving out these type of warnings, or maybe they weren't giving them out at all, I'm not sure. Until 2 years ago, I had driven around out and about too much. It was June 13th, I believe, of 2023. I traveled too far between my house in Michigan, my house in Ohio, and to where the care facility is, where my dad's room is, over by the airport in Detroit, or actually Romulus. But I traveled in a giant triangle that day and ended up dead on the floor at Walmart for a solid 15 minutes due to my ongoing effects of my initial injury and my condition that I'm still under treatment for, and I most likely will be for the rest of my life. I'm always going to need maintenance treatments no matter how much treatment I receive and how much of the initial overload of carbon monoxide is removed from my system and how much brain tissue is repaired. I will most likely always need maintenance treatments for the rest of my life, and so will my younger son. But due to me not being aware, I mean, I was aware the wildfires were going on and that there was particles in there, and I was aware that that was dangerous to me. But I wasn't really aware of how much I had taken in. And due to the amount of time I spent driving those long distances, so I must have spent well over 2 hours in the vehicle. It does go right through the ventilation in your vehicle as well. And So my effects were delayed. It cut off all oxygen to my brain while I was standing at the Woodhaven Walmart. And I then fell over, cracked my head open. So it was technically 2 brain injuries. One where I was standing, the oxygen was cut off, delayed effects from the particles taking over my already overloaded brain that already has carbon monoxide overloaded, blocking the oxygen. The particles added to it. It got completely blocked. I fell over and then cracked my head wide open and was bleeding from the head, lost several pints of blood from the head, completely unresponsive for 15 minutes. And there was a whole aisleway full of people, and my younger son was there with me. Ironically, my 2 older kids were separately across the street at Meijer, and separately from them, my ex was also across the street at Meijer at the same exact time. Now, by the time I came to, because I came back without medical intervention, this is the second time I had died and came back without medical intervention. By the time I came to, everybody was still kind of in the aisleway, and EMS was already there. My ex was there. Everything was spinning. I don't believe my soul was in my body the entire 15 minutes, based on what I was experiencing kind of coming back. And then I still remained in and out of it the whole ride to the hospital. Didn't really come to for a solid 45 minutes. But the effects was from these wildfire particles and my ongoing condition. Now, I'm aware I'm one of those people who can't have the particles. I wasn't aware that this was about to happen the day that it all happened, but generally I feel a tingling in my left hand first, and I think it has to do with one side of my brain being more injured than the other side. So I guess this could happen in either hand first, but it happens at the fingertip, slowly travels up the arm. That's your oxygen dissipating, being taken over by whatever particles you're taking in. If that's happening to you, that's the first sign that that's what's going on. Because I did take a short drive yesterday, and that was happening to me. And then when I got home, I was in and out of consciousness. I didn't go very far, but it still goes through the ventilation of the vehicle no matter what. I'm not sure if they even make a filter that would be good enough to filter out some of these spills and explosions and the wildfire particles. I'm not even sure if that's something that's even produced. But those are the risks. That's some of the signs you would have if that's going to happen to you. I mean, you may have other signs and symptoms as well. I do know there was another time, it was from wildfire smoke and the particles floating in the area. I have started to lose hearing in one of my ears due to my brain being overloaded with carbon monoxide. It then just takes over the oxygen at a rapid rate, and I start to lose hearing in one ear. Usually it's one ear. And it'll stay that way until I'm able to get into a hyperbaric chamber to begin to remove what I took in. And that has happened to me numerous times. And in the beginning of my poisoning, before it ever became extreme, I also lost hearing. That was one of the first signs that something was terribly wrong. I lost hearing in one ear 3 different times in the very beginning of the injury starting, while I was still pregnant with my youngest child. So I'm just warning people. I know they're not probably, I don't watch the news, but I know they're probably not giving people warnings to this degree on the news. And I know they're not giving full warnings when they are sending out warnings to the public about this type of thing, but it really isn't safe for anybody at all. And you really should limit your time outdoors when you're aware that these wildfires are spreading, the particles from them start to spread and dissipate. That's the only way to get rid of them. That's how they're gotten rid of. They have to naturally spread out and dissipate, just like all of the spills I've been through, the Ford gas spills at the Ford plant down the street from my house in Flat Rock, and like the spill, and there was the giant spill in Wixom, Michigan a couple years ago as well. Same concept. The only way to get rid of this stuff is to flush it. Now these type of spills, those were liquid, they were underground, but the wildfires are in the air, and that still, either way, the only way to get rid of the particles floating around, either whether they're coming up out of the sewer system or they're in the air, the only way to get rid of them is precipitation, which then in a sense the geoengineering would then help in a sense. In some cases, temporarily I guess it would help more than harm, but you still would want to just stay inside and avoid all of it while that's going on. And I do know that they use the geoengineering to begin to start to flush some of these particles. And I was also affected by that train explosion that was in, I believe it was East Palestine, Ohio. I was staying at my house in Ohio, 190 miles from there, and it did eventually make its way to my home. And I did experience violent symptoms on several occasions. So that didn't last. It only lasted a few months, I want to say, but it also did not make its way into my home as long as the windows and doors were shut. So certain things make their way indoors through windows and such and ventilation, and certain things do not. I'm learning as I go. I'm quite an expert on this type of thing. It's nothing I ever set out to do or desired to learn. I was forced to learn, or we weren't going to live. And ironically, I happened to come back from the dead the last time the wildfire particles spreading had affected me that severely. I happened to come back on my own. But I woke up long enough in the ambulance to tell the guy, I wasn't really with it, but I woke up long enough to let him know that I had been under treatment for severe carbon monoxide poisoning for years, and that what I needed was oxygen. That was the problem. And he did give it to me. However, due to my mother's ongoing crimes and the falsification of my medical records, every time I'm brought back to the hospital, regardless of whether I'm near death or not, I get kicked right back out onto the street with no help, no treatment. They continue on with the cover-up of the initial injury because they initially covered up the original medical emergency, leading to all of the ongoing effects I still have all these years later, and probably will for the rest of my life. So they did give me the oxygen in the ambulance, but by the time I had gotten to the hospital and someone began talking to me, and they weren't listening to what I said my problem is and what has been going on. I'm under treatment somewhere else. You need to contact my actual care team, not anybody from here. And they refused to listen and kicked me out onto the street. Now that is not normal. In anybody else's predicament, they're not going to be dealing with that. But it is situations like this that have repeatedly happened to me due to the ongoing effects of my initial injury, the ongoing crimes, that I was forced to learn about all of these things, all of the things in the air, all these explosions, flushes, chemtrails, whatnot. I've been forced to learn more than I ever set out to learn. So I'm just kind of giving people a warning. If you have babies, small children, older people, anyone with any type of condition, you don't want to be out there at all. You want to stay in your home with the windows and doors shut, with the ventilation system on. When it's like this, when it's all hazy or the sky is completely white from the wildfires, you can usually see, if you just take a step away from your phone and look up, you can generally see when that's what's going on. So it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. And I know there's a lot of posts going around social media about the wildfires spreading as well. Currently there is. But back when that initially happened to me 2 years ago, I don't recall seeing any. Well, I also wasn't on social media, and I also wasn't receiving alerts at the time, I believe. But I believe there's more alerts going on today than there was a couple years ago. It's just not safe for anyone. And yeah, learn more on Dane's website. He's got way more information than I do. And he does a weekly broadcast every Saturday evening for 1 hour. And you can go back and view all the previous ones. I think they're all listed by date. And he has other information on other subjects as well. He has way more than I do. So that's where you want to get your information from, because he's not controlled by any agency. He's completely independently owned and operated, and is not paid by anyone to skew any of the results or lie about what's going on. So that is very accurate information. I just was forced to learn about these things, so I figured I'd give everybody an update. That's how I know about the Fukushima flushing and the Ford gas spills that happen repeatedly here in Flat Rock, and the Wixom spill, and the train explosion. And you know, they try to say, EPA says, oh, it's safe, you know, X amount of miles out from, you know, the epicenter of it. That's not true. They lie. Those test results are skewed, how they come up with them, and it's not safe. And they don't even check the outside air. They check people's home air inside and then refuse to check the outside air. to get the accurate results, and that's how they run things. So the entire agency is fraudulent. I'll get more into depth with that because I had several arguments with them right here in my kitchen several times. And they thought I was some dumb, naive little bitch, and I went off on them, and there was a whole group of them, and I totally took them by surprise. I turned into the Wicked Witch of the West, and they had no clue that that's what was about to happen to them. During the first Ford gas bill in 2021, when it was very extreme, it was 15,000 gallons, they didn't know who the hell they were messing with. But it turned into a huge fight, a huge problem, and then I kicked them out of my home. But yeah, I will be exposing more about that entire situation because currently I am still dealing with the fallout from that situation back then, and my mother inserting herself in that set of crimes back then. It turned into crimes because she caused further problems once that incident occurred, which is why I was having problems with the city and the EPA and Ford. So I'm still currently dealing with the fallout and the results of all that today, and I will get more. I have filmed a couple videos on it already. I am going to finish telling the story on it all. Once I get all these other pieces of information out there, I will go back and readdress all of that and expose everything that actually happened during that time, not what they told the public. So yeah, this is more of a warning on the wildfire particles that are floating around in the general area in the several nearby states, and I believe it's even going further than what I had said. I think it's going like 5 or 10 states out, I'm pretty sure. And I'm not sure how far the warnings for all this are going out, but it is, and it's not safe. And honestly, if I were you or anybody, it doesn't matter who you are, I wouldn't be spending time outside. You know, all it takes is for you to stop looking at your phone and look up, and you can assess the air yourself. And you can clearly tell if the sky is clear blue, not hazy blue, not white, not blanketed with funny lines. It's very easy to tell once you start looking up regularly and away from your phone. It's very easy to tell when you should or shouldn't be outside with what's all going on regarding geoengineering or any wildfires or anything else going on. So this is just a warning for some people who maybe aren't really woke to what's going on regarding air quality and the wildfires that seem to be happening more frequently than not. And yeah, I'm gonna do probably a video on any type of air quality issue, spills, flushes, wildfires, anything along the way pertaining to that, because it affects me directly, and it affects my ability to leave my home. So I will probably do an update every time there is something like that going on, while I'm getting all these other incidences in the background situated, so I can proceed forward to talk about all the other subjects I have to talk about down the line. Because this is one of them. This is just something that is going on in the current. So when I catch things going on in the current, I'm trying to do a video on them. It's starting to look like it's dissipating, but it's really not. It looks clearer in the video than it does in person, and it was all white earlier today. So that's just a warning. Heads up, everybody. Pay attention to the sky. The alerts you get and what you see on the news isn't facts, but check out Dane's website. He's got a lot more for you there. I'll be back with another one. Thanks. Bye.